Shabbat Shalom. There once was a great-grandfather named Avram Nachman, of blessed memory. He began every Seder with a very unique custom. The table would be set with spotless white linens and fine china and crystal and silver that was used only for the Pesach meal. And once the order of the Seder was sung, the great-grandfather would rise to his feet and take up the Kiddush cup and chant the Kiddush and the Shehechianu in his perfect voice. It was a perfect beginning. And then every year, without fail, the proud patriarch of the family would sit down and spill his wine, deliberately, to upset the perfect order of the evening from the outset, before anyone could have a chance to make an error, dropping a fork, mispronouncing a passage from the Haggadah, singing off key. With that one gesture, the great-grandfather had already announced that this would not be a perfect evening. No one would be embarrassed for a spill, because the host had already made it clear that imperfections were not only permissible, but also anticipated and most welcome in his home. Let all who are hungry come and eat. Let all who are in need come and partake in this Pesach meal. Kol dichvin, yetei v'yichul. Come with your humanity. Come with your flaws and your foibles and your imperfections. They are welcome. You are welcome in this home. Every Tuesday morning, the senior professionals of Holy Blossom gather for a couple of hours of planning and strategizing and supporting one another, and we always start with a bit of study. And this week, our cantorial soloist, Lindy Rivers, brought the study to the table. And it was on the theme of perfection and imperfection. And how do we get back to striving for excellence for the sake of our congregation, but still not letting go of something we have learned over this pandemic? For 2 years, we have learned the hard way that we are all hungry for companionship, that we are all in need of acceptance, despite our imperfections. Our flaws and vulnerabilities have come to the surface for all to see, most significantly for ourselves to see. And lo and behold, it's okay. We didn't break. Lo and behold, one of those silver linings that people talk about is that we no longer have to pretend to be perfect. Have you noticed that people are more open about sharing their fears and their flaws? Have you noticed that people are more forgiving of one another, more accepting of one another, less demanding of themselves and of others? I believe this is a healthy change, a cultural shift. Time will tell if it lasts. Parashat Shmini describes how after an intense week of preparation, Aaron, the Kohen Gadol, and his sons are finally ready to serve God and our people in their appointed duties by offering a sin offering, a burnt offering, and an offering of completion. A duty that is performed with intended perfection. It is to be precisely as God had commanded. The animals are to be without blemish, without a broken bone, without an imperfection. And the person who offers up the sacrifice, the Israelite who recognizes how he has fallen, how she has failed, brings forward this perfect animal and prepares it with perfect intention, with perfect faith, according to God's instruction. And through the ritual of the sacrifice, that human being, with all his flaws and failings, is redeemed. Through the ritual of planful striving, that imperfect person gets to begin again. We're at a moment like that now. We get to begin again. We read these texts, these ancient texts, to tell us Pesach is coming. Spring, thank God, is coming. And with it comes a chance to begin again. Now, the reason there are no perfect people in Torah is that we actually don't believe it's possible. There's no such thing. And this is one of the thematic differences between Pesach and Easter, for example. Easter is a celebration of the redemption that comes through Jesus, who himself made of himself a perfect offering. Pesach, on the other hand, is a celebration of this mixed multitude and their messy struggle for an imperfect, incomplete freedom. Many other religions have singled out a model of perfection: Jesus, Mohammed, Buddha, Krishna, but not so in Judaism. Moses, Miriam, Aaron, all flawed, all imperfect, all striving. The only one associated with something of perfection is the Mashiach, that messianic age that is always on the horizon, always pulling away from us. The only model of perfection hasn't yet arrived, and we might not even recognize him or her if they were to show up and knock on the door. But nevertheless, we are called upon for a perfect striving, to create a world that is worthy to receive a time of perfection. It is not the Messiah who will arrive and bring that perfection, a world of justice and righteousness and completion and peace. Just the opposite. We imperfect human beings must struggle to create a world that more and more resembles something like perfection. And if that time never comes, no one will be surprised. Judaism instructs us to strive, not for perfection, but the striving should be perfect. The striving is the goal in and of itself. Even when we eventually arrive in the promised land, there's only more struggle waiting for us, only more striving. The very name of our people, Yisrael, literally means those who struggle with God. That is our namesake. This Shabbat Parah, signaling that Pesach is coming, we read about the Parah Ha'adumah, the red heifer. We read that its ashes would be mixed with water to become a source of purification. And there are some Jews today, believe it or not, who are still on the lookout for that Parah Ha'adumah, that perfect red cow, who doesn't even have 2 hairs of gray. It has to be perfect. No blemish. It's never worn a yoke to pull any weight or burden. And we're still looking for her. No one has found her. Some have claimed to have found her, but every time they're proven wrong. When we bring a person to the mikveh for conversion, we draw from the words of this special week's Haftarah. I once had a conversion student who was very diligent. She read everything. She was enthusiastic about Jewish life, attentive to details. She asked great questions. She came to Torah study and Shabbat services. And after a year and a half, I finally asked her, Do you think you're ready? Do you feel ready? Would you like to go to the Beit Din and the mikvah? She said, but I have so much more to learn. My Hebrew isn't very good, and I really feel like I'm just getting started. And I said, yes, you are just getting started. And that is a perfect place to be. I believe the Beit Din will agree. They are only looking for your readiness to begin your life as a Jew. They're not looking for completion. That will come, God willing, at the end of your very long life. We are good enough. And how do we know? What is the mark of good enough? That's striving. That perfect striving. When someone feels called to be good, and like this conversion candidate I mentioned, someone who feels humility in the presence of the perfect God, and humility before the living Torah, that's how we know that person is very good. And very good is good enough. When someone comes to immerse in the mikvah waters to become a Jew, we read from this week's Haftarah. And the nations shall know that I am the Eternal One, declares God, when I manifest my holiness before their eyes through you. I will take you from among the nations, and I will gather you out from all the lands, and I will bring you back to your own home. This will be a homecoming for you. I will sprinkle pure water over you, and you shall be purified. I will place a new heart within you, lev chadash v'ruach chadasha, and a new spirit within you. You shall be my people, and I shall be your God. So what is true for this newcomer to Judaism is true for all of us. Remember that on the sixth day of creation, when God created humankind out of the dust of the earth, that lowly, base, imperfect, messy material, God did not say perfect. God declared that human beings were tov me'od, very good, filled with potential, filled with a perfect striving. I've seen a lot of people struggling with mental health these 2 years. Our teens, our tweens, our young adults, our elderly. I want to say to them, remember that God only asks us to be very good. God declares us already very good. The very fact that we are a human being created in the image of God makes us tov me'od, very good. And let that be enough. Because if we were perfect, then we would be God. And only God on high is God. Lindy brought to our study a line that everyone knows from Leonard Cohen. Let me share just the first stanza with you now. For this moment of emerging, a new beginning, a reclaiming of life, ever striving. That Canadian singer-songwriter says, the birds they sang at the break of dawn, they sang, start again. I heard them say, don't dwell on what has passed away or what is yet to be. Ah, the wars, they will be fought again. The holy dove, she will be caught again. Bought and sold and bought again, the dove is never free. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in.